This is an overview of the Content Grid widget by Unlimited Elements for Elementor. This widget will allow you to display your content in different types of layouts and different types of source types. So over here you can see sort of a portfolio layout. Over here we have a reveal from bottom effect. Down here you can see even an example where we're populating the items with posts, and you can connect this to different types of filters. So it's a really flexible solution. Without no more further ado, let's jump in and get started. To get started, in the widgets pane, I'm going to search for Content Grid. This is a widget by Unlimited Elements for Elementor that will help you display your content in a grid layout, where inside of the general section you can change the number of columns and the layout will adapt. So for example, if I want 4 columns, it's going to show as 4 columns. If I want it as 2 columns, it's going to show it as 2 columns. So that's about the basic settings over here. Also inside the layout we have all sorts of types of layouts. So for example, if I want the content to reveal from the bottom, I can choose reveal from bottom, and now we have sort of a reveal from bottom effect. So there's all sorts of ways to display the content over here. Let me show you also overlay just as an example. So that means when a user will hover, it's going to show the content as an overlay. And one of the nice things about using a content grid is that inside a style, if you're going to change something, it's going to change them for all the grid items together. So for example, if I want rounded corners, I just changed that over here, and now it changed it to all the grid items. If I want the images to be higher, I can just change that, and it's just sort of a easier way to design the content on the page rather than having 3 different content boxes and needing to go over one over the other. Another really nifty thing about this is that inside of items over here, at any time you can just drag and drop the items over here, delete items if you need to, duplicate items if you need to, just to sort of manage the content. And if you go inside of here, you'll see this is really simple. You have a title, content, image, and a link for the button over here. Of course, inside a layout, you can turn on or off each part. So if you don't want a button, you can just turn that off, and now each of these do not have a button. So that's about that. Now let's go into the main part, which is talking about the source. So over here in source, we have all sorts of sources, and I sort of went over the first source, which is items. But this widget is very flexible and very advanced, and you can also use this with different source types. So what I'm going to show in the tutorial today is posts, WooCommerce Products, and we'll show also terms, even though you can use this with any other source inside of the list over here. But those are the most common use cases. So let's actually bring in a fresh grid. So I'm going to search for Content Grid again. And inside of the source over here, I'm going to choose posts. And now, as you can see, it's bringing in the posts from the WordPress posts. Inside the source over here, we need to start populating the different elements with whatever data that we want. So you can see that by default, the title is showing the post title. But in content source, we need to now choose what we want to show. So for example, I could show the post date over here, and now the post date is showing. Let's show a different example and show the post intro. So now I'm using the post intro, and now it's showing the intro text from the post. So that's really awesome. And the next part is for the link over here. So we need to tell it which link to bring inside. So we got post URL, and I'm choosing post URL. And now when I hover over these, you can see down here on the bottom that it's showing the correct URL of the post. So it's about that easy to connect. Now, of course, if you're using a advanced custom field, then you could put over here a custom field. So you would choose over here post meta field, and then you would put the name of that meta field. And the most common use case for that would be using ACF. So that's about the posts. Now, once you choose source post, you got a new section over here instead of items, which is called items post query. And now we can determine which post we want to show. If you're familiar with Unlimited Elements, this part is really advanced. We call it advanced post selection, and you can see it on our website. So it has a lot of options of how to output which posts we want to show exactly, which post type. You can exclude, include all sorts of posts, change the order, and determine the maximum number of posts. So, just as an example, I'm going to select over here include by terms, and I'm going to change that to desserts. Now I'm showing only the dessert posts that are assigned to the dessert category. Now, I could add another category, which is cocktails, and you'll see that now it's not showing the correct posts. What I need to do is change this to or. So I'm going to change that to or, and now I can see both desserts and cocktails inside of my grid. Another awesome thing that you could do with this is actually add filters. So I'm going to go down here to post pagination and filtering, and this part is added as well only once you're using the post source. So over here I'm going to change the pagination to use pagination widget, and I'm going to enable post filtering. Now I can add filters and pagination to this content grid. So let's go over here into the widgets pane, and these are widgets that are available in the Unlimited Elements widget library as well. So I'm going to search for pagination, and over here we have a widget that's called post pagination. Just gonna drag and drop that to the bottom over here. And since we have a lot of posts over here, let's go back into the post query, and I'm going to change it to show only 3 at one time. By the way, you can also use this with a load more and infinite scroll. So this is just one way to use it, but they're all the same. I mean, they're that easy. It's just drag and drop. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to preview it in the live website, because if we want to see how the pagination works, we're going to need to preview that in the live website. So as you can see, it's paginating between the different pages over here, and each page is showing just 3 items as we put over here inside of the maximum posts. I'm going to add a filter now, so let's add the most common filter, which is a tabs filter, and I'm going to drag and drop that widget. And as you can see, now it's showing all of the categories inside of my website. If I don't want it to show all the categories, I'll just go into terms, include by specific terms. I'm going to search for cocktails, and I'm going to search for desserts. So now we're seeing only the relevant categories over here. I'm going to click update to save just to show you guys how this works, and refresh the page over here. And now you can see that I can filter just to see the cocktails or just to see the desserts. Of course, at any time you can jump back into all to see all the posts and all the pages over here. So that's one of the use cases in using the post source. Now let's see a different source type, and I'm going to choose WooCommerce Products. So over here in WooCommerce Products, I'm going to delete the pagination and filtering, even though in a similar way those can work as well. And so over here now I'm going to see my products from WooCommerce. So what I'm going to do this time is jump inside a layout, and I'm going to hide the button, and I'm going to hide the text over here and leave only the product name. Now, since we have only the product name, I'm going to make that a link. So title link, I'm gonna turn that on, and now these titles are links, and as well as the image. You can see that by default the image is a link. Awesome. Inside a source, we just need to tell it what source the link will go to, and that's going to be the product URL. So now it's all set up and these are going to the correct places. I'm going to change the layout to 4 columns, and inside a style, the image, I'm going to make that a higher image just so that fits my images over here quite nicely. The last use case that I'm going to show today is going to be using this for terms and taxonomies. So I'm going to drag and drop the content grid over here, and inside of the source I'm going to use terms. Over here you can see that the title source is showing the term title, which is awesome. And what we want to do is actually go over here into the item terms query, and instead of posts I'm going to show my WooCommerce categories. So I need to select over here product, and now it's showing the product types. So instead of that, I'm going to show the product categories. And by the way, you can do this with any taxonomy, so tags and stuff like that. I just prefer to do it with products because products by default have a image field. So over here inside of content source, I'm going to show the term description. You can see that that's going to change over here. And inside of image, I need to select a term meta field. Now the name of the meta field is thumbnail underscore ID, and now it's going to show the images from my categories inside of WooCommerce, which is awesome. And don't forget over here in button link that you can change this to term link. And that's it. We're all set. So now when someone will click on this, it will go to that category page. Awesome. I want to thank you guys for joining this tutorial, and I'll see you in the next video.